Hello, everyone, and welcome to Developing a Powerful LinkedIn Profile. My name is Dorothy Baumgartner, and I'm here with my colleague, Christy Graham. We'll both be presenting some of the content today. We're really glad you are here with us. We've got a pretty packed workshop full of lots of tips about developing your LinkedIn profile. Before we get started with the content, though, we have a few housekeeping things that we just want to run over. One is we recognize that everybody's got different learning styles, lots of stuff going on in life. So if you find yourself needing to step away for any reason to attend to something, please feel free to do that. As you heard, we are recording this meeting. We will be sending that link out to you as soon as the system is done processing it, hopefully later today. And if not that, then certainly by early next week. However, I do want to encourage you to make note of that email address, careers@wgu.edu. So if you have a question after today's workshop, you're thinking about it over the weekend, and you have another question, that's a great way to get in touch with us. Or if you have a question about a different career topic, it's probably the fastest way to get hold of a career advisor. So please make note of that and keep track of that. And then finally, please do use the chat for your questions today. We'll be monitoring that and doing our best to respond to that. We might typically respond to things that are most applicable to the most amount of people. If you have really specialized questions, you may want to consider making an appointment with a career advisor. But we'll do our best to get to those. And also, we are not monitoring the Q&A panel in this workshop. So if you put something there, we are likely not going to see it. And with that, we've got one more thing to do, and that's a little bit of a PSA for some related workshops. If you haven't seen these other workshops, we've got this suite of 4 workshops that can help you with your LinkedIn profile, your branding, and networking, and using LinkedIn for the job search. So if you haven't attended those yet, please take a look. We do rotate our workshops, and so most of these should be upcoming in the next month. So watch for those to come, because those can also continue to enhance your LinkedIn and branding experience. And with that, we're going to pop into our agenda just so you have a sense about what we're planning to cover today. We will be doing, we'll taking a quick look at an overview of LinkedIn and some of the stats about why it's such an important platform for you, not only in a job search, but lifelong career kind of networking opportunities as well. And then we'll be talking about some LinkedIn optimization strategies. And then the bulk of our time together will be walking through the main sections of your LinkedIn profile and talking about some tips for increasing that optimization. We'll talk about some next steps and then do some Q&A. But again, we will be doing Q&A through the chat throughout the workshop. So please pop your questions in there. All right, let's jump in and get started. Why LinkedIn? Why is this such an important thing? So first, it's an opportunity for you to cultivate your professional and your personal and brand and your digital footprint, so that you've got something that is ready to go throughout the rest of your career. You're going to continue to update it, but this is really how you're conveying who you are as a professional to the professional world. It is the professional social media platform. It's an opportunity for you to build network connections, and this is, not only people that you know or that are directly in your industry, but we are going to, in the networking workshop, which is actually happening next Tuesday, so you might want to register for that. We do demonstrate the use of something called the LinkedIn Alumni Tool that gives you an opportunity to research and connect with WGU alum who've traveled this pathway before you. So it's a great networking platform as well. It obviously, lots of people use LinkedIn to search for jobs and internships, and it's one of the more powerful job boards. We've had some interaction with a person who is on the back end development of that LinkedIn Alumni Tool that I just mentioned, and he shared with us that LinkedIn does a very good job of scrubbing a lot of those other job boards. So it's pretty comprehensive place to look for jobs. It's also a great research tool. So exploring different industries, companies that you're interested in, career pathways, even just researching, again, like what previous, students of WGU have graduated and what their career pathways, you can use that as research in addition to just networking. So it's a very powerful platform, and we've got some numbers to back that up. So one is that there's over 1 billion members worldwide on LinkedIn and nearly 60 million companies. So it's a pretty, it's a globally reaching, extensive platform. We have actually that number for WGU alum has increased. I think actually it's closer to about 280 or 285,000. Christy, do you know what it's up to?
I 285
285. Yeah, it
Mhm.
continues to grow. So it's an incredible pool of people that you have the opportunity to research and connect with if you choose to. And here's a really important one. 94% of recruiters use LinkedIn at some point during the hiring process. So it is really important that you've got a LinkedIn profile that is professional, projecting the professional brand that you want, because they will most likely look for you on this platform. A lot of times people ask us, so, how do I use this, and how do I use it for networking? When should I start connecting with people? And we say, yesterday is not too early. The soonest you can start connecting with people. And so I want you to start thinking about using LinkedIn. Obviously, you may want to start, get your profile to a place where you feel really confident about it. But you can think any place you are in any sort of a professional setting when you're where there's other people either in your industry or with whom you have some affinity is a great way to just think about, hey, let's, like start sharing LinkedIn URL so that we can connect. And so we want you to think about every opportunity you're in, like maybe today, right here, right now, you've got other people who are interested probably in a similar place in your career pathway. And so if you would like to take this opportunity to start to network with some of your peers, please feel free to share your LinkedIn URL in the chat, and you can start connecting with each other. All right. We're going to shift to optimizing using your LinkedIn profile to increase your search engine optimization. So several things. There is a LinkedIn Recruiter tool that's on the back end of LinkedIn. We cannot see it as users, but this is the tool that recruiters use to find and vet talent. And so we happen to know, while we can't see it from the user end, Christy and I happen to know which of those sections are indexed, the top 3 sections that are indexed in that algorithm. And so that we're going to spend a lot of time on those sections. So those are your headline, your job title line in the experience section, and the skills section. You'll see the asterisks here. So as we go through the rest of this workshop, when we hit those slides, you'll see the asterisk. We're trying to emphasize these 3 sections. So how do you optimize those sections? You want to be including keywords from your target industry that include things like industry skills, any transferable skills that you have gained through previous experience that are relevant for your target position, any certifications that are standard or preferred in your industry, target job titles that you're looking for, that you're aspiring toward. So figuring out how those how to figure out what those words are. You may know some of them, certainly through some of your academic work. We've got a couple of tools here that Christy's dropping in the chat. One is the LinkedIn Economic Graph, can help you find some of those keywords for your target industry. We do have a tool called the WGU Career Coach tool, which is an opportunity for you to do some searching for the kinds of roles that your career talents are most affiliated with. I do need to say we are transitioning this tool to a new one in the next couple of weeks, and so you will see that replaced by something called Pathway U, and we'll provide some instructional videos and things as we roll out that tool. But the Career Coach tool is up currently now, so if you want to pop in there and use that in the next couple of days, that's still available to you, and that will help you find some of those keywords.
Hey,
Okay.
Dorothy,
Yeah.
I put in Pathway U. It is also up and running and it does the same thing. So I would encourage you to use the link I provided rather than the WGU career
Great.
tool, since we're not using that after the month is over. So
Perfect.
check out
Perfect.
Pathway U.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Christy. Thanks for that update. Okay. So how are, just a note about this, if you are new to LinkedIn, haven't started a profile or just, opened one up, we want to make sure that you know how to find sections and edit them. So if you look here, add profile section is right below your name, and this is the headline. You should see this button, and that's how you, if you click on that, it will allow you to choose what section you want to work on. And then in each section in the top right-hand corner, when you're looking at your own profile, you'll see this little pencil button. That is the editing button. So if you click on that, it will allow you to edit that section that you're in. And with that, we're going to start walking through these sections, and Chrissy's going to help you with your profile photo.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dorothy. So the first section that we're going to talk about is your profile photo, right? That's the first thing that you see when you get to somebody's profile page. And it is, well, research has shown that you actually get more views, 21%, I'm sorry, 21 times more views and 9 times more connection requests when you actually have a, a profile picture. So, it needs to be, you want to have that like warm, welcoming kind of sense. Hopefully you're smiling in your picture, but you do want to make sure to have a photo so that it feels like there's a person there. If there's no photo, it almost can feel, like, is this even an active profile? So if you don't have a profile picture, I would recommend doing that as soon as possible. Of course, you want it to just be you, but this is just general advice. If you are a musician, it would make sense for you to maybe have singing in a microphone or playing a guitar. But if you're an accountant, probably not a good idea to have your friends, your dog, or musical instruments in the photo. You want to make sure that it is you're mostly you, so shoulders and above. And you want to have hopefully a smile, friendly smile, to give that sense of welcoming when people do arrive here on your page, your profile page. You want to make sure that you're using natural lighting. You want to use a neutral background, but this is industry specific. And you also want to be looking at the camera, hopefully facing the camera. Now, the photo is really intended to draw you in. You want people to reach out to you, right? The whole point of LinkedIn is so that you can connect with others. And so we have a couple of tools that Dorothy's going to pop into the chat here, and it is Photo Feeler and Snapper. This is, if you don't feel comfortable asking like your family or your friends to give you advice or honest review of your photo, you can use these tools to help you get that feedback about your photo. And I think that they both do a pretty good job of providing you with at least like kind of some basic feedback. But you can always reach out to us too. We can give you that advice as well. So on the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about your background, your banner photo. So here, there's well, really, this is just a continuation of your profile picture. So it will help you to stand out in front of the recruiters and anybody else that comes to your page. You can, I mean, the default is going to be that gray stock image. It's kind of like a sort of gray image, and it doesn't really draw you in. And the whole point is to get people to really start to see you and to have it be inviting. Here in this example, Olivia has her website and her, social media marketing. So it's just part of her profile to get people to come in and want to reach out to you. So you can really, you want to make sure that it's clear, professional, aligned with your industry. You can use stock photos. So there's Unsplash and Pixabay that you can just choose from stock stuff that you can put in there. You can also use Canva. So you can use a combination of a stock photo and then use Canva to put in personalized information. But really, it's going to be designed to help kind of be a continuation of the brand that you're putting out there. All right. So next that we're going to talk about is your URL. So you can add, get an automatic, like random set of numbers and letters. You do want to make sure that you customize your URL just so that it looks professional and clean, and so that you don't have a bunch of random numbers and letters on like your resume, because you can put this at the top of your resume with your contact information. Employers do go and visit your, your LinkedIn profile when they get your resume. And if you make it something that is incorporating your name, right? Like your first and last name, hopefully you can certainly it'll leave a lasting impression and they'll remember it a lot easier. So you do want to avoid using any kind of number combinations that people could assume with your birth date. So, like if you're Jersey, if you had a common name like Bill Smith and that was already taken up, and you want to use your basketball jersey 88, be careful about that because you don't want to have any kind of age bias in your URL. You can also add a descriptor to help you, be distinguished. So if like you were a pen tester or you have an MBA, you could certainly incorporate that in there as well. But ideally, make it clean, make it professional, and try not to use any number combinations that might be a birth year or a year of graduation.
All right, now we're going to transition to one of those all important asterisk sections, your headline. This is the #1 section that's indexed by that LinkedIn recruiter algorithm that we mentioned before. So it's really important that you spend some time and thought in what you want to put in this in your headline. This is what shows up right below your name, okay? This also shows up in your summary when people are searching for your name. If you search for somebody on LinkedIn, you get a list of names and the beginning of your headline shows up. So you want to think about really packing the first part of your headline so that what you want to stand out to people shows up even in that summary. But this should be something that is, really kind of gives a quick snapshot of who you are. What skills and certifications that you have, potentially what you do and what you can offer. So you're gonna hear us talk about rich keywords all the way throughout this workshop today, because keywords that match the important words from your industry are the kinds of things that are going to be searched for and stand out to people who are viewing your profile. So a keyword-rich headline will give you a competitive advantage over other people who are seeking the same kinds of jobs. So you really want to pack this as much as you can. So think about these questions. What is my career target? What are the top skills or certifications in my industry? What are problems that I can solve? So this kind of checklist, is just sort of a basic checklist about the kinds of things that you can put in. We're going to show you some examples in the next slide. But target job title, what industry skills, certifications, and value propositions, like what problems can you solve? What are things that you can bring to an employer? So let's look at some more specific examples. And one thing I want to point out, these are some sort of formulaic ways that you can think about developing your headline. Do you want to say these separators, like these straight pipes, the dashes, the carets? Those don't mean anything at all. I mean, there's no symbolism to them. We just wanted to put in some demonstrations of some different separators that you can use other than commas, just to try to help break it up a little bit. So you'll see some examples of those used down here in these specific ones. So if you know if you are new and you're a career starter or career changer and you have a target job title, you can put that title in. You don't have to have done what you're aspiring to do. And so you'll even notice down here in the right-hand corner, this woman in the pink shirt has aspiring cybersecurity analyst. This is somebody who has not held that job, but you want to put that in your title. So one of the really key things, sort of as overall framework to be thinking about your LinkedIn profile, is you want to write toward your future, not toward your past. I can't tell you how many students and alum I've talked to have said, I've been doing sales forever and trying to get out of sales. All I get contacted by recruiters on LinkedIn is for sales. And we look at their headline and it says sales. So if you're trying to move away from something, if you're a career changer, you want to leave that out of your job title and focus toward your future again. So you can do a target job title and use aspiring if you need to. Add keyword skills that you have learned in your degree, or have transferable skills and any value any kind of value statement or proposition. If you are in a job title and you're trying to advance you in your same, in the same field, you can certainly use that. You can include certifications and skills. Or if you don't know exactly what job title you're going after, you may be able to talk about a job function, like an HR professional or something, and also include skills or certifications, and again, those value propositions. So what does that really look like? So for example, here in this first one, you've got, this is probably somebody who is a medical record specialist, wants to advance in their career, and they list the HIPAA compliance that they have. And here's the value proposition here: safeguarding patient documentation to promote accurate and confidential healthcare data management. Okay, so there's some other things here. You'll see that in this person's talking about being a talent acquisition specialist. So you've got 220 characters that you can use in your headline. And here's some examples of things that you can use. And so we want to really encourage you to, again, this is a place you want to give some, adequate time and thought to developing that really concise synopsis of what you want to be conveying in terms of your professional brand, what you can bring to future employers. All right, we're going to hop to another important section. Christy, I see your camera's off for you.
Yeah, my camera's
okay.
not working, so I
Okay.
apologize, folks, but I'm
No
still
worries.
here.
Okay.
We are going to jump on into the About section. So this section is, I have a couple of slides on this section, and the reason why is because it is a very big section. I also think that because it's so large that it can oftentimes be a little bit overwhelming, just because there's a lot of space to fill. But something that I do want to really stress is, as you can see here, that this is the #1 section that's actually that's viewed by the recruiters and whoever lands on your page. Honestly, they're going to get here to your page. Maybe that's because of your headline, but this is actually what they're going to be reading. It's the first section they're going to see. So this is so important to build this out because it is where you're going to be able to tell your story. I think it's really meant to support your headline and really expand, right, on your professional brand. So if you said that you are aspiring cybersecurity analyst in your headline, you're going to also need to support with skills and experiences here in your About section. Any keywords, we're going to talk about keywords throughout this presentation. Those are things that you want to incorporate in here, and you have a lot of space to do that. So really, in general, you are going to focus in on some skills and experience that is valuable that you're going to be bringing to whatever field you're interested in. So you kind of almost even want to be talking about like to your future self. Kind of like how Dorothy was alluding to, but a little bit different from your resume in some respects, because you're already targeting this as much as possible to your future and what kind of career that you are envisioning. So this is going to be, this is a place where you're going to see a lot of different variants on how people do that, but you can do this by describing things like your leadership, your passions, your strengths, all of that thing, all of those things that you, transferable skills, your soft skills, really anything that you want to draw attention to that, kind of tells your story. So, and then of course, integrating keywords and industry skills in that as well. Go ahead and flip to the next slide, Dorothy. I'm going to dive in a little bit about each of the sections. So, you're going to be
Christy, sorry, I want to just hop in because there was a question. Just want to remind everybody that we are recording this and we will be sending it out. So you're welcome to take screenshots of any of these, but you will get the recording when it's in. So if you need to capture this stuff, there's a couple ways to do that. Okay, thanks,
perfect.
Christy.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that because I'm not paying attention to the chat right now. So thinking about your About section. So a lot of folks, some people are using mobile devices. So you do want to make sure that when you're thinking about your your about section, oftentimes you're going to only have a little bit showing on like a mobile device. So you really want to make sure that you have an opening hook to capture the attention of the reader so that they're going to want to scroll, right? Scroll down and continue reading your story. The opening is also going to be a little bit, I mean, it's going to be different throughout if you look at other people's profiles, because it's really how you decide that you're going to be. But typically, nobody likes to read big blocks of text. So we kind of recommend that you split them up into separate paragraphs. So as you're thinking about how you're going to do this, these are just some prompts to think about. I'm not going to go through all of them, but sometimes questions can really help, generate ideas on how to build out these different sections. So maybe in your opening paragraph, you think about what you do, right? Why you do it, why you're drawn to the industry. I love talking about passion, right? What motivates you, that can really help engage the reader. And some people even label them too. So it's up to you how you want to do that. The middle paragraphs are kind of like the meat and potatoes. That's going to be where you focus more on your industry skills. So those are your transferable skills, what you are going to offer based on what you've done in your background, especially if you have a background that's relevant to what you're targeting, what your future self is trying to achieve. So different ways to go about tackling that middle paragraph, but it's going to be the bulk of what your about section is, and it can be multiple paragraphs. So your last paragraph is going to look different for everybody. So you do want to focus on your career goals, like where you are headed, maybe what industries are you interested in, what kinds of opportunities are you excited about. Some people even like to include what's called a call to action, and that might look like, let's connect, or let's see what I can do to improve your business operations. So these are just kind of prompts that will help you kind of start to think about which areas you might want to include in your about section. So yeah, that's. Do I have another slide after this? I think that's pretty much it. These are more headers, so I apologize.
Yeah, these are headers. That's okay.
Yeah, I was like, I have 3 slides on this. So here you can see, this is going to help if you have headers, just to help with readability. So you can turn the caps on and add those section headers, but it will help break up that content so that you might, that you're not reading one big giant block of 2,600 characters in a text. But you can see here in the middle paragraph, these are some examples. These are just, maybe you pick 2 or 3 of these and decide to incorporate those in your about section. And then, having the opportunities I'm drawn to is a really great way to kind of close up your paragraph as well. So about section is definitely challenging because there's so many characters, but keep in mind, just to reiterate again, this is where the visitors of your profile are going to read as soon as they arrive. So you really want to do a great job of making sure you're telling your story, so for the readers, so that they know what you're all about.
Thanks, Chrissy. We're going to move to another one of those all-important asterisks, this experience section. This is the second section. The job titles within your experience section is the second most indexed thing in that recruiter algorithm. So we typically, most of us just write what our job titles have been in that experience section, but you have some opportunity there. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a minute. But just in general, when you are listing work experience, previous experience, especially if you're mid-career, you only want to list about 10 to 15 years, same as your resume. Age discrimination is illegal, and it happens all the time, unfortunately. So you want to be thoughtful if you are mid-career or later about what you want to include in terms of dates and how much, about how much experience you want. The one exception to that is that if you have previous experience and you're doing something now, but you're going into a field where you have previous experience before that 10-year mark, you may want to include that as well. If it's really highly related to what your target industry or occupation is, then it might be beneficial to keep it in your profile. Also, if you have volunteer experience, there is a volunteering section, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But if you have volunteer experience that is really related to that, your target occupation, whether that be a volunteer internship or something that's not paid, you can certainly add those in your experience section as it's related to your target role. So how do we do this? How do we maximize this opportunity with our experience titles? We encourage you to think about, we're going back to those rich keywords, right? To develop what we call compound job titles in your experience section that represent more than just what your title was. So you would start off with what your actual title was here. It's a marketing associate. Then we've got some sort of a separator here. We've got straight pipes here. Here we've got carrots. Again, it doesn't matter what those are. It just helps break it up visually. But after your official title, you can talk about roles or functions that you held and accomplished in those roles. So while your title might have been marketing associate, but you really want to be focusing on social media and the direction you're heading in your career, you can include that work that you did as a marketing associate as part of your job function or role. So for each one of these, you see the examples here. I'm not going to read them all for you, but you can see them here. There's the job title, and then there are various roles or responsibilities. In this case down here, there's more about, you're including more specific kind of responsibilities. These are more focused on roles. So think about how you can enhance your titles in your experience section to include some of those roles or job functions that weren't part of your official title. So a little bit more about this. Oops, excuse me, I popped there. Sorry. Chrissy, are you?
Yeah, I think that I was supposed to take all of this experience.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. You did a great job. And so, just to chime in, I just popped in the chat here real quick, the resume accomplishment statement. Because part of the experience section, in addition to writing the titles, is we're gonna actually write the experience bullet points similar to your resume. I just want to kind of touch on this this title, this compound title. This is a really great way, because this is an index section, to, like, let's say I'm a retail sales associate. That's my official title. I am trying to pivot to a social media content creator. So I mostly, my job title is I'm a retail associate, but I also do all of the social media content creation and posting, as well as the forecasting and the planning. Then I can say, I can use those different titles that a recruiter would actually be searching for, in my compound title, to allow more visibility and to be more relevant, because the point of this is so that you can have enough of these keywords and titles, even if you haven't officially held the title of content developer, for instance. That was just one of the many hats that you wore in your role as a retail associate. It can really help you to start showing up in those list results. So that's what this example is really demonstrating here. Lead with your actual job title, and then just decide how you can best incorporate additional titles and also keywords, like we have in this health information specialist role. And we can help you with this too. So if you want to take a first crack at it and then lean into us a little bit for some more advice, we're happy to help. But this can be a really great way to be more to show up more on those recruiters list. So if you want to flip to the next slide, I did already pop in this CPD resume accomplishment statement, but I think that this is a good starting point. Would be like, if you don't have anything, or you're just creating your LinkedIn profile, you can use your accomplishment statements from your resume. That's totally fine. Though those are geared more towards a specific role. that you're applying to. This will be more industry specific. So the more themes that you see in the roles that you're targeting is what you're going to put in the experience section. So if you need help, click on the link. That will give you some really good ideas and some some ability to really think through some circumstances that might apply to you. But just like your resume, you're going to start with a strong action verb. That starts out the statement. If you can quantify your work and really paint a clear picture of what it is you've done and what value and impact you've had in your previous experience, adding numbers and metrics can make that that picture very clear. I led a team of 25 individuals, to ensure operations, something like that. And really you're focusing on the greater purpose behind it's not a task list. Instead, it's like, how did the work benefit? Yes, I led a team of 25 individuals, but doing what? Was I making sure that they were meeting their sales quotas? Was I making sure that they were compliant in making sure we had coverage? Whatever that big picture is going to be a lot more powerful than just a list of tasks that you do. So if anytime you're using technologies, anytime that you are using software that the industry is that's relevant to the industry, I would include those details and those specifics, because that's going to really tell whoever is visiting your page what it is you do and what value you bring to the organizations that you've worked at in the past. All right, so education section is up next. Do you want to take that, Dorothy, or do you want me to?
Go ahead. Go ahead,
All
Chris.
right, so the education section is just a little bit further down. The one thing that all of you will want to put your WGU education. So you want to lead with what's most recent. So if it's in progress, you start with that. And here in this example, you can see that they're including relevant coursework and projects. This can be really powerful as well. You could even add an academic project section, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but you want to add a graduation year unless you had graduated a long time ago, because you certainly don't want to have any age bias. You don't want to include your high school or any post-secondary like your AA, unless it's relevant. So some folks will get a very specific associate's degree, like in, networking, and then they got their bachelor's a little bit later. So use your best judgment. Honestly, if it's relevant, put it on there. If it's not, it's implied. So you don't need to include your high school or your post-secondary. And then any accomplishments that you've had, as you can see in the example. I think capstone projects are usually really great to showcase, because it's usually in line with what your targeted profession is. But you can put all sorts of skills or technology competencies in this particular section. The next is going to be the skills section. So for the skills section, I'll let you take this one, Dorothy.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. This is the third one. You see that asterisk again. This is also indexed by that recruiter algorithm. LinkedIn used to have a limit of 50, but this year they increased that to 100. And so this is an opportunity for you to add lots of different skills. And you'll see there were 17 times more profile views when you have at least 5 skills. You have the opportunity to include, many more than that to increase your discoverability. So if recruiters are looking for specific skills, you want to be sure that you have them on your profile. So I'm going to show you in just a minute how this works live on a LinkedIn profile. There's a drop-down menu when you go into the skills section. Anything that's in the drop-down menu is already in the LinkedIn database. So you're going to use that if you can, because it will match some of those, it will match the search on recruiters, and you want to choose skills that are spelled out and abbreviated if they both exist. So I'll show you that in a minute. One of the things you want to pay attention to is that your two highest priority skills, you want to make sure they're listed on the top, and there's a way to reorder your skills if you're not aware of that. So I'm going to jump to that page in just a minute, but one more note about that, about this, is that LinkedIn, if you've been using it for a while, you may have known that there were skill assessments that were available to take and you could post. LinkedIn stopped doing that this calendar year because as there's with the rate of change and the expansion of skills, they recognized that it was hard to continue to be able to verify all of those. So they've stopped doing that. But what they have done instead is that they've made the ability for you to connect skills to particular experiences like jobs, excuse me, or education. All right, so I'm going to show you really quickly, excuse me, on the skills section here. I'm going to go to the edit button so that you can get in here. And the way you add a skill is with a plus. And you'll see that there are some things that are suggested for me based on some of the other things that I've included. But let's say I want to indicate that I've got some experience with customer relationship management. And let's see, let me get that out of there. Okay, so you can see it. So this is what I was talking about before, is that there's the abbreviation CRM and the skill spelled out. If that's available in the dropdown, you want to choose that. Again, all of these that are listed in the dropdown are in the LinkedIn database already. So that does enhance your search engine optimization. If you can't find your skill though, it's okay to type it in. But if I see it here, and especially if it's got both the spell out and the abbreviation, that's the one that you want to save because it will double your chances of getting picked up. The other thing that we want to do here is look at the three ellipses here, the three dots. You get the reorder button. And when you get this picture, then all you do is you grab things and move them, okay? So you want to make sure that those top two are things that you want to make sure, those are the ones that you want to highlight because those show up, you'll see back here on your summary. It's always going to pick the top two that you've got listed here. If you're looking at a job opportunity, it might give you the ability to say, do you have these skills? You can add them directly from there. I had an experience like this not very long ago. There was something about like financial literacy, and I thought, well, I do have that skill, so I added it and didn't think about it. And a couple of weeks later, was looking at my profile, and financial literacy was at the top of my skill list. So it seems that what it does is it populates those new skills on the top of your list. I would not say that's my primary skill that I want to, define my professional brand. So if you are adding skills elsewhere in LinkedIn, you want to go back to that section and make sure they're ordered appropriately for what you're wanting to share. All right, we're going to switch now to licenses and certifications. This is another section in LinkedIn where you can put in any licenses or certifications that you have earned. You want to make sure that these are relevant to your target industry. I mean, especially if you have a lot of them, you may want to consider eliminating things that really don't relate to what you're trying to achieve in your career. So you may have some old things and they're not necessarily, not necessary to include, excuse me. These are the kinds of things in this oval that you want to be thinking about. Credentials, obviously specific licenses for particular, like, nursing license, for example, professional licenses. Any kind of LinkedIn Learning courses, you can also add those there. That also boosts your credentials. Any professional development certificates that you've earned, from a variety of organizations. And one of the things that you want to think about there is you can add the URL from those organizations in right as you list your certification or your learning, excuse me, your entry there, because that helps boost credibility, that your reader can go directly to that organization and see that it's a legit organization. So here's some things to think about. You want to update this anytime you add to your professional development and learning. Let's talk about recommendations next. Back to you, Christy.
Thank you, Dorothy. All right, so talking about boosting credibility, this ties right into recommendation section. So this is actually one of the most underutilized sections in LinkedIn. And really, the whole point is a chance for you to really showcase your professional credibility. So having colleagues or other people recommend you for projects that you've worked together on or things that you've accomplished that you had like a role in can really showcase how you are going to be in the workplace and boost your credibility. So it's coming from somebody else, and that really helps you stand out from other, other candidates. These recommendations they can speak to specific skills that you might want to highlight, strengths or achievements that you've maybe held or accomplished in previous positions. And they can also help you to reinforce your brand. Now, you have the ability to request from folks that are your first connection. So this is another reason why you want to have a lot of connections. So basically, thinking about managers, internship supervisors, volunteer supervisors, any position where you've been in a leadership role, maybe from somebody you've supervised or somebody that you've mentored, people you oversaw or supervised. You can also request from colleagues, from any program faculty or people that you feel like you have a really good relationship. Could even be from clients, just depending on the kind of work that you do. If you're thinking about doing entrepreneurial kind of work, and you're thinking about starting your own business, having clients refer you or have your recommendations to showcase can be really powerful. So some best practices around reaching out. It's really important to think about brand and also about the quality of the recommendations. So it's better to say maybe have 4 or 5 high quality recommendations versus 10 to 15 generic recommendations that don't really give examples of the work that you've done. So focus on the people who can speak specifically to the things that really matter to you, and the things that are going to matter to potential employers that are in your targeted industry. The other thing I would also recommend that you do is you provide some kind of context, right, around what you're trying to achieve when you request that recommendation. So what I mean by that is you can, like when you go to do the recommendation, you can actually select a box, or you can specify what you want them to focus on, or just, type up what, in a few sentences. Hey, can you talk about the project that I did creating a phone tree for your organization? I'm trying to highlight my ability to be adaptable and, my leadership skills. Say, if you have guidelines or you have goals that you're trying to achieve, include that in here, because that's going to help them as the person that, they want you to succeed. Hopefully you're choosing somebody that you have a great relationship with, and giving them some context can help them to make sure that they're meeting the needs that you're hoping to achieve. And then you want to draw attention to achievements that they might know about in your background, that you want to showcase. So like I mentioned, you only can request these from first connections that you're connected to on LinkedIn. So if you try to request from somebody that's not a first connection, it's not going to let you do that. And then the last thing I also want to mention is you ask somebody for a favor, it's a really nice thing to reciprocate, right? Maybe you send them a message and ask them if they can write you a recommendation. You provide them with some content, and then just say, if you would like for me to write your recommendation, I'd be happy to do so. So kind of mutually beneficial experience in offering up writing a recommendation for them. So now I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about the additional sections that LinkedIn allows you to add. So I'm not going to go over all of them, but I want you to be aware of some of these kind of additional sections. And I do recommend that this is something that you would want to add, but I would recommend looking at industry professionals in like roles that you're trying to target to kind of see what they're putting out there, so that you can kind of align within the industry. But I would say the featured section. So like, let's say you are a software developer and you've got a GitHub that you want to showcase your work. This is a great way to, show your actual work. You're a digital content creator. Maybe you can feature, a flyer that you created or a post that you made. There's a lot of different things that you can showcase. Even published work you can showcase on your featured section. The volunteer experience, this is, like Dorothy mentioned, you can actually put in some volunteer experience in your experience section, just like you would a regular job, but this is for things that might not be as relevant that you want to showcase to show that you're a good human. You're out there doing things in the community, or that you're active in your local church or food bank place. The languages is a great place. If you speak more than one language, kudos to you for that, and feel free to showcase it here on your profile. The project section, this is the academic component you can add in addition to just putting in your capstone or your relevant coursework under your institutions in the education section. You can actually have a project section dedicated to personal projects or professional projects that are relevant to the industry that you're targeting. Honors and awards, publications, which you can also feature in your showcase work, but there is a publication section, courses, and organization. So add the ones that you feel like are going to be important in your industry. If you're not sure, poke around and look at other individuals that are that are working in your industry, see what they have, because you might be able to steal some ideas, or note that they're all putting in their project section or the volunteer work. So you want to make sure you're aligning with that as well. And then settings here, the settings, we get a lot of questions about settings. And so we want to talk a little bit about the ability to make those setting changes. There's a lot of options. So you can determine how private you want your profile to be and what information users are going to see when they see your profile. Within that visibility settings, you can choose how your profile is viewed publicly, and this is going to be an individual choice. You can adjust your settings to match your personal preferences, and you can also change your settings, excuse me, that lets people know that you've viewed their profile. So sometimes you want to view profiles under the radar and kind of be incognito, especially if you're exploring career pathways. And other times you want people to know that you are on their website. So you can turn that on and off as you see fit. And if there are a lot of times where you want to be intentional about connections, and so you might leave that setting on if you're looking at recruiters or other industry professionals that you might want to network with. Side note, the location settings are actually in the headline section, as you can see here on this screenshot. So it's not that intuitive. Make a note of that or take a screenshot if you are wanting to know where to find those settings. And then you're open to work. That's another thing we get a lot of questions on. So under your headline, you're going to find the open to button, and that setting is where that lives. And open to work, this is going to be if your current employer doesn't know that you're actively in a job search, I would be mindful here. Best to avoid that unless you want your employer to know you're searching. You have an option to even change the open to work to recruiters only, which is the same distinction. You just don't get that little green banner that shows up on your profile. But when a recruiter looks, they will have, it'll identify you as open to work. I do, be cautious on that, because even though you might set it to recruiter only, if you haven't had a conversation with your employer, recruiters share that information and word gets around. So I would recommend not having the recruiters only feature unless if it gets leaked out on accident with your current employer, you've already had that conversation with them first. Now, there's a all LinkedIn members feature that you can do, that's the one that will give you the green, like the green filter. And then the recruiters only, no green frame, but the recruiters can share that information with whoever they feel like. Now, if you ever see the LinkedIn member instead of somebody's actual name, that is just because they're outside of your network. So another reason that you want to have as many connections as possible, because LinkedIn has 3 layers of network connections, first, second, and third. Anybody outside of your first, second, and third, they're not visible to you unless they have complete, free reign on their profile. If they are in your network, you will be able to see them. You'll see their picture, not the member only without their photo. As long as your 1, 2, and 3 connections.
All right, we have completed most of our workshop today and hope that you found some of this valuable. We want to talk about some next steps. Obviously, trying to identify your target industry or occupation can be really useful as you're making decisions about developing your profile. Not absolutely critical. Again, there are ways that you can talk about job functions that you're aiming for and those kinds of things. But the more work you can do to try to get clear about that, that just helps you make decisions about the language and the priorities that you're putting on your profile. We do have a LinkedIn user guide, which we'll share with you, and that will also be attached to the email that we send out as a follow-up with the recording when that's finished. And this is actually the document that we use when we review students and alumni LinkedIn profile. So you'll see a section in there, it looks great, or here's some opportunities for improvement. But on the other side of that column, you're going to see a lot of tips and strategies and links to some additional tools. So as a follow-up to this workshop, you may want to use that guide as you're working through your own profile to build it out. We do want to remind you about those workshops we talked about in the beginning of this workshop, some related workshops about LinkedIn personal branding, networking, and maximizing LinkedIn for the job search. Those are available to you. And also we do, as I mentioned, do a written review of LinkedIn profiles. We would ask that you spend some time updating your profile to be in alignment with what we've talked about today, in alignment with this LinkedIn user guide. And if you'd like us to look at it after that, you can email your URL to careers@wgu.edu for a review. Another almost last thing is we want to invite you to think about one step that you are willing to commit to after watching this workshop today, after participating. What's something that you will do in the next week to develop your own LinkedIn profile? And the reason we're doing this is when you make a commitment for one thing and actually share it with other people, so we're going to invite you to put this in the chat, you're more likely to follow through. So this is not anything we're going to come back and ask you about. The chat's going to go away. This is a commitment to yourself, one small thing that you may do in the next week for yourself.
Now, Hernando, while you guys are thinking about your small section, Hernando asked a question about any examples of a good about section. There are tons of them out there, but I did pop in the chat the LinkedIn user guide, and that has some embedded videos on how to go about approaching your about section, as well as kind of a structure on what to do. We got
all right.
Yeah, go ahead, Dorothy.
We've got some commitments coming in for yourself. Update my about section, updating job titles, clean up work history to focus on relevant ones, remove old history. Awesome. That's great. Anything that you can do to just start. Just starting sometimes is the biggest step, right? So we want to encourage you to really work on doing something, maybe over the weekend, since it's Friday. You've got a couple days, and you can work on one section. Again, we'll be sending out a link to this recording and the resources that we dropped in the chat. We do want to make sure you know how to get in touch with us before we leave you today. This is our website. If you haven't been there, you may want to take a look. There's a lot of great resources there for other career topics. We do have a YouTube channel for other career topics if you want to watch videos on other things. Do make note again of our careers@wgu.edu is our team email. That's a great way to get in touch with us. We have a message line where you can leave a message and we'll call you back within 4 business hours. We do have drop-in hours available where you registered for this workshop and Handshake. You may find some drop-in hours. Some of them are topically focused and some of them are general. That's an easy way to pop in, ask a question, and leave. We're also on Facebook. And Christy did drop in the chat. We have a survey that we would really love it if you would take a couple minutes to complete. This just helps us know if we're meeting your needs with this and other workshops, gives you the opportunity to suggest other career topical workshops that you'd be interested in. Thanks for coming, everybody. We are glad that you joined us today. We hope you have a great day and a great weekend. Take care.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
Dorothy. Thanks, everyone.